Guevara, in his reminiscences of the Cuban Revolutionary War, mentions a Jack London character where the guy gets stuck and he's going in Alaska, he's frozen, he's stuck on something, and instead of just starving to death, he would rather die with dignity, so he shoots himself. So Che Guevara has approved of Jack London. Jack London is Che Guevara approved. Not only did Buck the dog learn by experience, but instincts long dead became alive again. The domesticated generations fell from him. In vague ways, he remembered back to the youth of the breed, to the time the wild dogs ranged in packs through the primeval forest and killed their meat as they ran it down. It was no task for him to learn to fight with cut and slash and the quick wolf snap. In this manner, he had fought forgotten ancestors. They quickened the old life within him, and the old tricks which had been stamped into the heredity of the breed were his tricks. They came to him without effort or discovery, as though they had been his always. And when, on the still, cold nights, he pointed his nose at a star and howled long and wolf-like, it was his ancestors, dead in dust, pointing nose at star and howling down through the centuries and through him. Ah, 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 oh! Oh! Ow, 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 ow! Oh, it was fun. So, Jack London, The Call of the Wild, is one of my all-time top favorite books. Jean-Jacques Rousseau said that Emile only needed to read Robinson Crusoe. I disagree. I think my kid only needs to read The Call of the Wild. Okay. So here's just some quotes of Call of the Wild that I enjoyed, just about 10 or so. And his cadences were their cadences, and the cadences which voiced their woe and what to them was the meaning of the stillness, the cold and the dark. Ow! Is that a good Call of the Wild? It's supposed to be like a sorrowful howling, right? Just ow, 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 ow! 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 Ooga. Sorry about that. So the dominant primordial beast was strong in buck, and under the fierce conditions of trail life it grew and grew. The hairy man could spring up into the trees and travel ahead as fast as on the ground, swinging by the arms from limb to limb, sometimes a dozen feet apart, letting go and catch and never falling, never missing his grip. In fact, he seemed as much at home among the trees as on the ground, and Buck had memories of nights of vigils spent beneath trees wherein the hairy man roosted, holding on tightly as he slept. And closely akin to the visions of the hairy man was the call still sounding in the depths of the forest. It filled him with a great unrest and strange desires. It caused him to feel a vague, sweet gladness, and he was aware of wild yearnings and stirrings for he knew not what. Sometimes he pursued the call into the forest, looking for it as though it were a tangible thing, barking softly or defiantly as the mood might dictate. Yet it was a secret growth. His newborn cunning gave him poise and control. He was too busy adjusting himself to the new life to feel at ease. And not only did he pick fights, but he avoided them whenever possible. A certain deliberateness characterized his attitude. He was not prone to rashness and precipitate action, and in the bitter hatred between him and Spitz, he betrayed no impatience, shunned all offensive acts. On the other hand, possibly because he divined in Buck a dangerous rival, Spitz never lost an opportunity of showing his teeth. He even went out of his way to bully Buck, striving constantly to start the fight, which only could end in the death of one or the other. He would thrust his nose into the cool wood moss or into the black soil where long grasses grew and snort with joy at the fat earth smells, or he would crouch for hours as if in concealment behind fungus-covered trunks of fallen trees, wide-eyed and wide-eared to all that moved and sounded about him. It might be lying thus that he hoped to surprise this call he could not understand. At the Pelly one morning, as they were harnessing up, Dolly, who had never been conspicuous for anything, went suddenly mad. She announced her condition by a long, heartbreaking wolf howl. that sent every dog bristling with fear and then sprang straight for Buck. He had never seen a dog go mad, nor did he have any reason to fear madness. Yet he knew that here was horror and fled away from it in panic. Straight away he raced with Dolly, panting and frothing, one leap behind, nor could she gain on him, so great was his terror, nor could he leave her, so great was her madness. He plunged through the wooded breast of the island, fled down to the lower end, crossed a back channel filled with rough ice to another island, gained a third island, carved back to the main river, and in desperation started to cross it. And all the time, though he did not look, he could hear her snarling just one leap behind. Night came on, and a full moon rose high over the trees into the sky, lighting the land till it lay bathed in ghostly day. And with the coming of the night, brooding and mourning by the pool, Buck became alive to a stirring of the new life in the forest, other than that which the Yeehats had made. He stood up, listening and scenting. From far away drifted a faint, sharp yelp, followed by a chorus of similar sharp yelps. As the moments passed, the yelps grew closer and louder. Again, Buck knew them as things heard in that other world which persisted in his memory. He walked to the center of the open space and listened. It was the call, the many-noted call, sounding more alluringly and compellingly than ever before. And, as never before, he was ready to obey. John Thornton was dead. The last tie was broken. Man and the claims of man no longer bound him. Francois called to him a quarter of a mile away, and he doubled back, still one leap ahead, gasping painfully for air, and putting all his faith in that Francois would save him. The dog driver held the axe poised in his hand, and as Buck shot past him, the axe crashed down upon Mad Dolly's head. Buck staggered over against the sled, exhausted, sobbing for breath, helpless. This was Spitz's opportunity. He sprang upon Buck, but he did not know why he did these various things. He was impelled to do them and did not reason about them at all. Irresistible impulses seized him. He would be lying in camp, dozing lazily in the heat of the day, when suddenly his head would lift and his ears cock up, intent and listening. He would spring to his feet and dash away, and on for hours, through the forest aisles and across the open spaces where the nigger heads bunched. He loved to run down dry water courses and to creep and spy upon the bird life in the woods. For a day at a time he would lie in the underbrush where he could watch the partridges drumming and strutting up and down, but he especially loved to run in the dim twilight of the summer midnights, listening to the subdued and sleepy murmurs of the forest, reading signs and sounds as man may read a book, and seeking for the mysterious something that called waking or sleeping at all times for him to come. And twice his teeth sank into his unresisting foe and ripped and tore the flesh to the bone. Then Francois's lash descended, and Buck had the satisfaction of watching Spitz receive the worst whipping as yet administered to any of the team. "One devil, dat Spitz," remarked Perrault. "Some damn day him kill dat Buck." "Dat Buck two devils," was Francois's rejoinder. "All de time I watch dat Buck, I know for sure. Listen, some damn fine day him gon' get mad like hell, and then him chew dat Spitz all up and spit him out on de snow. Sure, I know. No, Spitz might be one devil, but Buck is two." One night he sprang from sleep with a start, eager-eyed, nostrils quivering and scenting, his mane bristling in recurrent waves. From the forest came the call, or one note of it, for the call was many-noted, distinct and definite as never before, a long-drawn howl, like, yet unlike any noise made by a husky dog, and he knew it in the old familiar way as a sound heard before. He sprang through the sleeping camp, and in swift silence dashed through the woods. As he drew closer to the cry, he went more slowly, with caution in every movement, till he came to an open place among the trees, and looking out saw erect on haunches, with nose pointed to the sky, a long, lean timber wolf. But in spite of this great love he bore John Thornton, which seemed to bespeak the soft civilizing influence, the strain of the primitive which the Northland had aroused inside him, stayed alive and active. Faithfulness and devotion, things born of fire and roof, were his, yet he retained his wildness and wiliness. He was a thing of the wild, come in from the wild to sit by John Thornton's fire, rather than one of the soft Southland, stamped with the marks of generations of civilization. Because of his very great love, he could not steal from his man. But from any other man in any other camp, he did not hesitate an instant, while the cunning with which he stole enabled him to escape detection. In the summers, there is one visitor, however, to that valley, of which the Yeehats do not know. It is a great, gloriously coated wolf, Like, and yet unlike all other wolves, he crosses alone from the smiling timberland and comes down into an open space among the trees. Here a yellow stream flows from rotted moose hide sacks and sinks into the ground with long grasses growing through it and vegetable mold, overrunning it and hiding its yellow from the sun. And here he muses for a time, howling once long and mournfully ere he departs. But he is not always alone. When the long winter nights come on and the wolves follow their meat into the lower valleys, he may be seen running at the head of the pack through the pale moonlight, or glimmering borealis, leaping gigantic above his fellows, his great throat a-bellow as he sings a song of the younger world, which is the song of the pack.